It was supposed to be one of, if not the last delivery of the night for me. I was working at this pizzeria called Leonardo's. One of my bosses, Frank, was on the night shift with me. He would choose who does what delivery.
We got an order for a couple regular pizzas. He gave me a piece of paper with the address on it and the person's phone number. This was in 2009. I didn't have a cell phone that had GPS, just a bare-bones flip phone. I also didn't have one of those Garmin GPSs. I still had to use an old-school book of maps to find my way around when doing deliveries.
The name of the street that this house I was doing my last delivery for was something along the lines of Willows Road. I can't remember the house number, nor do I remember the name given for the order, but I do remember having the hardest time finding the place. It was in this really rural town with nothing but woods, farmland, and more woods. The lack of streetlights also didn't help. I had to pull over a few times and turn on the interior lights as I checked the map again. It was a very stress-inducing situation whenever I couldn't find a house. I was on a very quiet, dark, and confusing road when I decided to just call the number on the paper my boss gave me. The phone rang a bunch of times. It seemed that there was no answering machine set up to it. It had to have rung about 10 times before someone picked up, and I waited for someone to say hello. When no one did, I said it, and then a voice on the other end said it back. It was a low, deep, yet soft voice. I said, "This is the pizza guy. Just having a hard time finding your place." He explained that his driveway was easy to miss and looks like just a dirt trail. He talked in a very slow, monotone voice as he described the surroundings of his driveway to help me find it. And eventually, I did. I turned my car onto this pretty narrow dirt path. It was definitely easy to miss. It took about 30 seconds of me driving slowly and carefully up it until I saw this small one-story house comes into view. There was a faint orange glow from inside the house that could be seen through one of the windows. I parked my car next to the only other vehicle in sight, this jalopy of a pickup truck. I grabbed the 2 pizzas from the passenger seat and walked to the front door of the house. I looked for a doorbell. Couldn't find one, so I knocked on the door. I heard muffled music from inside the house. Then I heard footsteps approaching the doorstop, and then after maybe 10 seconds, the door cracked open, and I saw a quarter of someone's face. I literally could just see one of their eyes peeking out at me. I nervously said, "Hey, you ordered the pizza, right?" The guy said, "Oh, yes, the pizza." I recognized the voice from the phone call from before. There was a weird pause. I didn't know what to say except for, "Do you have the cash?" He said, "Yes, let me go get it." He walked away from the door, and I heard his footsteps move to another room. There was super old music from like the 1930s playing, making the setting just extra creepy and weird, if it weren't creepy enough already. Then, the door started slowly inching open on its own, revealing more and more of this dimly lit room. Everything about the interior of this place seemed super old. There were metal sheets on the floor, presumably covering holes in the floor. The couch looked like it was from a different century. Hell, all the furniture did. And the music was coming from a vintage-looking record player, one of those with a big horn-like thing atop. That's all I could see at first from just sneaking a nosy peek inside the place. But what really was off-putting was the smell. It smelled like death in there. I waited respectfully for the guy to come back with the money from wherever he went. When enough time passed that I felt like it was getting weird, I knocked on the open door, took a peek inside, and said, "Sir?" The man's voice came from another room, saying, "Yes, would you mind coming into the kitchen, please?" My coworkers and bosses always advised against stepping into anyone's house if you didn't have to. That advice seemed especially relevant for this circumstance. I heard what the man said, but I still responded, "Can you repeat that?" He repeated, "Can you come to the kitchen, please?" I stepped inside, and I honestly felt like my feet were going to crash through the floor. The place was so old that the floor actually caved in a bit as I stepped around. The house was very linear.
I looked to the right and saw the entrance to the kitchen where his voice was coming from. I looked to the left and there was a narrow hallway which had a bunch of doors on the right side. At the end of the hallway, there was this guy with his back to me, slowly dancing in the creepiest way imaginable. The man was feeling himself. I don't mean he felt confident. I mean he was literally feeling his body as he moved in this really off-putting way. In any other circumstance, I would laugh, but I was downright disturbed of what kind of house I just walked into. I turned away and looked to the kitchen, still holding these 2 pizza boxes. I took a few steps toward the kitchen before I even noticed the person peering around the edge of the wall separating the kitchen from the living room. It was that man's face again, still only showing like a quarter of his face, just one of his eyes creepily peering at me. The only thoughts I had in this moment were, what the? And should I just leave? I repeated what I said at the front door moments ago, asking him again if he has the cash. The man didn't respond. He started to just giggle, or I don't even know what I'd call it, because the laugh was so deep in pitch, but it was so subtle and soft. Then he called out Randall in a startlingly loud voice, much louder and more commanding in tone than his previous soft-spoken monotone voice. I was at my limit of how much weirdness I could take. I turned around and started walking back to the front door. And as I took a look down the hallway as I was about to walk outside, I noticed that guy who was dancing seconds ago was now simply just standing there, looking back at me. I left through the front door and closed it behind me. I hurried back to the car, for some reason still holding the pizzas. I threw the pizza boxes in the passenger seat and got back in the car as quickly as possible. As I was backing my car up to clear the pickup truck next to it so that I could just do a 3-point turn, I did look back at the house, and the door was fully open again. My heart started beating even quicker at the thought that one of them was outside my car about to attempt to open one of the doors. Maybe they were, and I'll never know. But I managed to get my car down that dirt driveway and back onto the road. I had to return to the pizzeria. I called Frank to let him know what happened. He wasn't mad at me. When I got back to the pizzeria, everyone laughed when I told them what happened. I can honestly see how it sounds like a funny situation when explaining it to others, but it was not funny in the moment. Whatever was going on in that house wasn't normal, and I don't think they had any intentions of buying pizza. I've had multiple dreams where I would see that man's face just peeking around from behind a wall. After that, I didn't enter anyone's houses or apartments while doing deliveries.